It's hard to overstate how much profit motive can impact art, and Valve is maybe the most pure example of what happens when you simply let creatives cook. Coming from other games which have character interactions that often feel so fake for reasons that I'll get into, it is so refreshing to open up a Valve game and be greeted with this.
All your brilliance is wasted toiling for Fairfax.
Not wasted. I'm getting paid a fortune.
So you're content with being a wage slave?
Pretty much.
How depressing.
Valve is not a publicly traded company like pretty much every other one in existence. People working there are not beholden to the whims of shareholders or investors or suits, if you would, and that means they haven't given up any creative authority at all in the name of profit or marketability. Overwatch, for example, was not so lucky. Overwatch serves as a great point of comparison as its main inspiration was what the Deadlock developers almost certainly worked on prior, which is TF2. Overwatch and many other hero-centered games have done their best to ape TF2's creative character designs and personalities to varying levels of success. From the same people who brought us these 9 that have kind of served as the base inspiration for the entire hero-shooter genre, now we have 30 more, so far, to analyze with mountains of dialogue between them. And I gotta say, Valve are still cooking it better than everyone else. Overwatch often alluded to characters liking each other, but never made anything explicit out of fears that it would hurt the brand. This isn't the writer's fault, for the record. I have no doubt that they would have made the relationships between characters more clear if they were given the chance. Meanwhile, you open up Deadlock, and Viper and Billy are just straight up flirting with each other.
You're looking good. New jacket?
You like it?
I like it even better on the ground of a dark alley.
Oh, I know where we're going after the ritual.
You mind if I call you Lash?
I don't give a shit.
This isn't horny baiting, these characters are just horny. It wouldn't be out of character for, like, Ash and Cassidy to have a similar interaction, but the writers simply can't do that. Valve's open creative freedom lets characters talk a lot more like real people rather than like, well, superheroes. A real disease in writing often attributed to Marvel is characters always being incredibly witty with on-the-spot comebacks immediately, the kind of interactions that are like what you come up with in the shower. Real people don't talk like that. Actual people screw up in conversation a lot, and it's something that's in Deadlock's conversations a refreshing amount. You'll hear Dynamo misspeak and take a second to compose himself.
But if I let that stop me from trying to learn, I wouldn't be... well, I probably would still have my body.
When people do misspeak and get things wrong, other people often correct them.
As far as I'm concerned, this is like sitting next to Mozart on the piano bench while he plays canon in D.
Pretty sure that was Paco Bell.
Yeah, him too. Point still stands.
And if someone tries to say some stupid one-liner, others very rightly call them out on it, because if you did that, you would sound like an idiot.
Where's your gun?
I don't need one.
No one needs a gun. It just makes surviving a firefight significantly more likely.
Don't worry about me, McGinnis. It'll be fine.
Often in games, you'll see character interactions use an excuse to plug exposition or lore holes, and so someone will walk up to another character and they'll just start barking at each other about some shit that's like totally irrelevant to both of their lives. And in Deadlock, meanwhile, here is an entire interaction between two characters.
I'd buy you a drink when this is all over, but...
No mouth, I get it.
And there are more examples than I can show of people stuttering and having to consider their words rather than just knowing exactly what to say, which is incredibly refreshing. I think this shows why Valve's characters have such an air of authenticity to them that I very seldom ever see matched, and basically never by a big AAA production. It also helps that Valve's voice direction is top tier. Obviously, they're working with some top-tier talent. Bebop and McGinnis talking to each other are literally reskinned Caustic and Bangalore interactions, but Doorman's VA is completely new to the scene and he is killing it.
The only way you'll ever honor your brother is by falling on his sword.
Overall, I think the writing feels so natural because the voice actors were given the green light to break at times. And that's even for characters who are very stuck up or composed. Even the said Doorman's stoicness falters when Geist insults his beloved place of occupation.
That hotel used to be magical until its standards went to hell.
I will lodge your complaint with the management.
Be sure that you do.
I will.
After all, it is one thing to write a good line, it is another thing entirely to deliver it like it is not just words on a page. Like I'm doing right now. I wrote all of this like weeks ago, and now it has to sound like I'm coming up with it on the spot. We as consumers often see Valve as a pretty stagnant company that rarely makes anything, but in truth, they are constantly making things all the time, iterating over and over and over again before they show off what it is that they've been working on. Deadlock started its life some 8 years ago and was originally a Half-Life themed VR RTS game at some point. I imagine that is why the patrons are still floating faces and hands. they were probably a person in a VR headset originally. This isn't new for Valve either. TF2 was originally a modern military FPS before it morphed into, well, TF2. As I said, Deadlock has been going through a lot of iterations, and I think its current one, set in the mystical New York, is the third setting that the game has been through. It has gotten rebooted twice through development so far. You can see that iteration all throughout Deadlock, as new stuff is juxtaposed with old stuff, and one of those is the direction for how they write the lines. It's changed pretty substantially over time. Seven is one of the oldest characters, and you can tell because when you ping someone who's new, he'll bark a basic callout like this.
I see a mirage.
But when you ping another old character, the voice line that'll play was written and recorded years ago, and it'll say some shit like this.
Ah, so the time thief has made her appearance.
As much as I hate to admit it, the shorter barks are probably better competitively, but it is pretty funny to hear Seven shit talk people.
I can smell Lash's hubris from here.
A fun thing that I noticed while recording this is that you can really tell some lines were recorded recently and some later when pinging Yamato.
I see Yamato. Let's take out Yamato.
You can tell those weren't recorded in the same session. Valve has also chosen such a good range of characters for Deadlock's cast. Deadlock is set exclusively in New York, but it still has a wide cast of various nationalities. Because of the small scope of strictly New York, it sidesteps the problem where, despite being a massive globe-trotting team, everyone seems to have miraculously interacted with each other at some point previously in their lives. And New York is a big tourist destination, so naturally it makes sense for people from all over to be here. You've got all sorts that you'd expect to see on public transport. Locals like Ivy and Furnace and Bebop, sitting next to them as some government agents like Hayes and Holiday. Appalled to be forced to sit with the impoverished is rich gentry like Geist. There's tourists from the other end of the planet like Mirage and Yamato, just trying to get where they're going, as well as a wide variety of horrific freaks presumably birthed from the sewers. Oh, and at the end of the train car is a sociopathic mass murderer with divine aspirations watching Subway Surfers. All of these characters want the same thing: perform a ritual and wake a patron, which is a god, so that they may ask it for a gift. And yet, despite the goal of the game being inherently pretty selfish, a lot of the cast really aren't that evil. There's a few insane people like Seven and Drifter, don't get me wrong, and a good handful are self-interested, but a lot of them are just like good people who want to do something for someone that they care about or for their community, which is very refreshing. Dynamo just wants to be a human again, Bebop wants his mom to be better, Infernus just wants his friend's bar not to close down. They're really small-scale wishes which keeps the scope nice and narrow while also making these characters really sweet. With New York being a big tourist destination, I was admittedly a little worried that the characters would already be acquainted in really unbelievable ways, but thankfully, nearly everyone in Deadlock are just strangers to each other. There's what felt like an obsession in Overwatch specifically to make sure that every character had a seemingly inexplicable relationship with another character, and it made the world feel extremely small. Deadlock sidesteps this completely, as while some characters do know each other, the vast majority of the time it's by reputation rather than because they had a dramatic moment in the past. Lots of characters know Lash and Bebop, but that's because they're city-renowned pit fighters who use their beef with each other as well, marketing. Characters mention seeing each other in the newspaper a lot, and honestly, if they did something that would be in the newspaper, that seems like fair game for others to know. And when they do interact, there's a very natural mix of how different characters react to each other. Lots of people hate Lash because he's an overconfident dick who brags about himself all the time, but when Seven is an overconfident dick who brags himself all the time, people treat him more like a non-Euclidean cryptid because that's what he is. Even Lash, full of himself as he is, doesn't risk Seven's ire.
Mistakes happen, Glow Stick.
What did you call me?
Glow Stick. It's your new nickname.
Call me that again, and I will pop your eyes like grapes.
Seven it is.
Valve does a really good job at remembering that characters are people rather than mouthpieces, and I think nothing shows that better than Seven and Viscous. Even Seven, the scariest, most accomplished mass murderer of them all, reacts like this when he sees old Goobert.
Hello.
Oh god, it's talking to me.
I'm Viscous.
I can see that.
I'm made of goo.
This could be a nightmare.
Deadlock is the most fresh set of characters from the TF team since 2009, and it's refreshing to see that they still have only gotten better. I've got a couple hours on TF2, and Deadlock in my eyes is basically just Team Fortress 3. The aesthetic and time period are roughly similar, though a lot more grounded and distinct enough to be its own thing. Some people might not like MOBAs, and that's fine, but you can really see the TF team's influence shine through even beyond just the characters. There is an insanely in-depth movement system that is just there, and even though it's very different from TF2, it's still got the complexity to match it, and dare I say, maybe even surpass it. Some of the stuff that they've done is very in keeping with old TF2 content as well. Like, when I got prompted to vote for a new character, I felt like the dude in Ratatouille remembering the War update all over again. TF2 probably had other updates like this too, do remind me if you can think of them, but War from 2009, I'm pretty sure was the first that they had community-wide goals like this, with the player base being temporarily united to make a choice. Safe to say, I was not prepared to be reminded of this ever again. It is refreshing and comforting to know that the people who prepared the gourmet meal that I raised myself on are still cooking new dishes that I will be enjoying for years more. If you are watching this video, there's a very above average chance that you also played a comparable amount of TF2 as well, which makes me want to ask, dear viewer, what are your hours on TF2, and how do you feel about Deadlock? I'm really curious to see if higher hours in TF2 leads to a better, lower impression of Deadlock. I'll be waiting, I suppose. For now, thanks to my patrons, Emmy and Potato especially. Like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill, and have a good night.